Are we doing this?
Yep.
Is this real? Are you recording?
Yeah, we're
Are
recording.
we going?
We're good.
All right, I guess we'll start this off here. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here with the pilot episode of our new podcast where we'll be talking about films that we wanted to enjoy and haven't really quite found that joy in it yet. And basically the rundown is going to be the first episode we're going to talk about where things went wrong. And then the second episode is going to be given a beat sheet of where we'd like to have seen the story go. So we'll just go ahead and start out with the introductions. First of all, my name is Cody Carwile. I am a writer, actor, producer, director, all sorts of fun things. Not necessarily professionally on some of those, but that's okay. All it takes is just to get a couple bucks from somebody. So if anybody wants to send me that, I will definitely become a professional, whatever you want. Boy, that sounds like I'm a prostitute. Anyways, up next we have Thomas Scott. Thomas, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I am also an actor, somewhat of a writer, getting into it more so, but I love watching movies, and I've made a couple little short films and such, and yeah.
All right. And then we also have Joshua DeVries. Josh, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, gosh. Well, definitely not an actor anymore. Not that I ever really was one.
Gosh.
I just feel stupid talking about myself. Was this supposed to be part of it that we talk about ourselves?
Yeah, we have to let the audience know who we are, that, hey, we're a couple of fun, cool dudes you want to hang out with and talk about films with.
Well, I mean, I like stories, and I like to write, and I think I like seeing a good story, and I'm always kind of disappointed when the stories I want to be good, they just kind of, they fall flat, to use a term I've used often, in preparation for this show, falling flat.
Falling flat. Hey, should that be our title? Because we don't really have a title yet. By the way, I put something out on my Instagram. This is like, for anybody who is not, who is already one of our friends that's probably listening already. Thank you to the 5 of you. Hopefully you will come up with some pretty dope names for us that we can steal. If not, that's fine. We're just gonna go with we're gonna go off the dome and find something. Okay, so not to be pessimistic about this. This isn't always going to be, we just absolutely hated these films. These are actually we're gonna start out with a film. It really is important to a lot of people in America, and just kind of all around the world. A lot of people grew up with it. It's a huge franchise, multi-movie, multi-million dollar, billion dollar at this point, franchise that we love. We're going to try to tackle this because it's important to us. So yeah, like I said, not to be pessimistic, we do love the ideas of these films, the heart that goes into it. It's just in recent years, especially with the film that we're going to talk about in this first episode, kind of has been falling flat, as Josh said. And so what we're going to do is we're going to break down where things went wrong, we think. And hopefully in the next episode, we're going to come up with some pretty neat ideas about where it could have gone and how it could have been fixed. And yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see where this goes. And maybe it goes nowhere. Maybe we get the attention of some people. I don't know. Hey, we're just playing around right now.
So why don't you tell them what we're going to be talking about?
Okay, so
if they haven't already guessed.
If you haven't already guessed, possibly even by the way we described it, or possibly even by the title of this episode, if it goes on iTunes, we're going to be talking about Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
Pause for effect.
That's right. That's the old Pinter pause. If any writers are out there, you know what that is. Hopefully, gosh,
Pinter pause.
Yeah. So
it's a Pinter pause.
So what? Yeah, I mean, I think we should talk about kind of what our initial reactions were to that movie. I mean, it's a little bit different now that we're on the other side of The Last Jedi looking at this.
Yeah.
But,
that's a whole nother.
That's another
we're going to
episode.
be trying to focus just on The Force Awakens. We'll get to The Last Jedi. That's down the road.
It'll be tough not to throw that in there, but
right.
We're going to do our best.
We may have to, but for the most part. Oh, by the way, we need a word for this episode. We need to figure out.
Oh
what it's
yeah.
gonna be.
The word of the day. What's the word of the day, Thomas? Why don't you come up with one of them?
It has to be related to our topic here.
I mean, we had
Star.
Don't mind me. I'm trying to find my contact that disappeared in my
Yeah,
life.
Josh
there
is
it is.
poking his eyeball.
Oh, I see it.
Oh yeah, it's right here.
Just really need your eyes for a podcast. Oh, he licked it. He licked it, not his eyeball.
Well, I don't have solution with me here, so all right. Moving on. Here it goes. Yeah, there it goes.
You ever seen a person put a contact?
This reminds me of that scene in The Last Jedi with the with the green milk.
Yeah, I don't. What? Okay.
The booby scene. So what were you guys' reaction to The Force Awakens?
Yeah, we'll come up with a word later. If you, basically the idea of the word of the day is the magical word is if we come up with something like if we say something over and over and over again, just take a drink, whatever you want to do.
I think it should be Jakku.
Jakku. All right.
Okay.
Jakkuza.
Jakku's the word of this episode. So
yeah, we were already talking
if you're holding
about
a drink, a Pepsi,
how
a cherry
ridiculous.
Coke, a bourbon. When you hear Jakku,
Whatever you want, baby, you hold on to it. We were already talking about Jakku and the Jacuzzi Empire and things of that nature. All right, so settle in. We'll start talking about this, and let's see. I don't even know how long we're only 7 minutes into this already. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's begin. The topic of the day is Star Wars: The Force Awakens, and I guess, like you said, Josh, let's just talk about leaving the theater. Now, remember, this is a 3-year-old movie at this point. This came out in 2015. We're 2000, almost exactly 3 years. I mean, we're only a couple weeks away because it came out on the 17th, 18th of December. Yeah. I would know that's my birthday that it came out. And that's right. My brother, actually, a quick little anecdote. My brother was like, "Hey, you wanna it's your birthday? I'll take you out to go see a movie." And I was like, "Cool. What movie are we gonna go see? Because Star Wars, Force Awakens comes out on my birthday." And he's like, "Oh yeah, well, whatever." And we ended up seeing the Krampus. The Krampus. So there's
really cramping your style.
There's like hundreds. I wouldn't say thousands. It's a small town. There's hundreds of people. I think you, Thomas, were in the line. I think I saw you in the line.
Oh yeah, I remember this.
And you're like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I was like, "I'm gonna go see the Krampus for my birthday."
That was literally your reaction.
Yep.
I remember now.
And I just remember I had to go to the bathroom or something in the middle of the Krampus. And I just remember running down the hallway with my ears
got the Krampus
covered.
in the middle of
I
the
had
Krampus.
the Krampus running down the hallway and with my ears covered because it was like walking through a minefield. I didn't want to hear any spoilers. I didn't want to know anything about it.
Yeah, by the way, these episodes are full of spoilers. We assume that you've already watched the material if you're listening.
It's 3 years old and it's Star Wars.
We're not going to rehash any of I'm just saying I'm setting a precedent here. We're not going to rehash what happened in the story.
I'm just saying, if you haven't seen this,
go watch it.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you American?
Keep going with your story.
No, I mean that's it. It was a minefield. I was running down the hallway with my ears covered. I got back, and I had avoided all sorts of spoilers until I came back. I had just come back from Pennsylvania from a wedding. It was one of our friends that had gotten married, and I was like, screw it. I'm just gonna go see Star Wars. I haven't seen it. It's been a couple days since it came out. Let's go see it. So I got in. I went directly to the movie theater. I bought my ticket, and I was jazzed about it. I was waiting in line for an hour and a half, whatever. And I, like an idiot, I took a picture and put it on Instagram of the picture of the ticket. And some guy from New Zealand, I don't even know who this dude was. And he was like, Han Solo dies. I was like, well, you know what? I deserve that. I deserve that for posting that. Some typical millennial posting some nonsensical picture about, oh, I'm doing this with my life.
Okay. Well, now that you've seen the movie at least once, what was your take from the movie? I mean, what did you? Because obviously we picked this movie because we felt it fell flat. So how did you feel? It fell flat?
To be honest, the hype was real. It was palpable. You could feel it in the air.
Palpatine.
It was Palpatine. Palpatine should be our word.
Okay.
So
no, that's not going to show up.
We're moving on. We're moving on from that little thing. Yeah, it was. It starts out. It's got that epic crawl of whatever, and then you see the thing about the first order, and I was like, okay, that's all right, whatever. I'm not gonna. It's like 3 seconds into this movie. I'm not gonna judge it. Then we get through the opening sequence, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is cool. Like they did something cool with the Force, and we'll talk about that more later. And I just remember getting to the end of it and just being like, hey, that was better than the prequels. It was pretty good. It wasn't amazing. It didn't do anything new. Literally, it just rehashed everything we had seen. And I just walked away, and it was pretty forgettable. Honestly, it was forgettable. And that's not something that happens with Star Wars often. It was just, oh, okay, well, I am interested to see where this is going to go because of all these random plot threads that they put in there, because it's the Abrams
the Abrams effect.
syndrome. Yeah. But it got down to it, and I walked away from the movie, and I said, yeah, it was fine. And it wasn't until later on, and then just kind of seeing where this is going, that I was like, yeah, actually, in all reality, this was not. It wasn't anything.
Yeah.
It was just vapor. This was a movie that came and went. It had no impact on the overall story.
$100 in the meantime.
Right. It had no impact on the overall story for me. I didn't care about any of these characters. As a matter of fact, most of them, I was like, please, I don't want these characters. I don't need these characters. But I don't know. So let's move on to the next person. Thomas, what's up?
I actually liked it the first time I watched it. But I'm not talking about The Last Jedi, but I actually liked that the first time I watched it as well. But that's because I grew up on Star Wars, and those are like the movies that made me love movies in the first place. And so going in, I just have like adrenaline pumping, and I was like, oh, that was great. It visually, it was great, and story was good and everything. But since it was Star Wars, I went back. Like, I think I saw it like 3 times in the first week.
Thomas, you go and see like a movie that's hyped up. Like, you go see it 13 times in the theater.
I saw the episode 3 6 times in the theater, but I think I only saw Force Awakens 3 times. But I generally liked it. It, like you said, it didn't really introduce anything new. Nothing stuck out. It kind of came and went. But they, I don't know, they kind of like started something new, but kind of at the expense of what was already established. And I don't know, like, but at the same time, like, Abrams, he made, like, introduced all these things where it was like, oh, that didn't really tell me anything, but it introduced a lot of mystery that I'm really interested to see what's going to happen. And mainly I liked it because I was more interested to see the next movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way.
Well, it's going to be a trilogy going in. Like, you know that there's no possible way for them to contain this entire story in one film. Unlike the offshoot, like the Rogue One and Han Solo. You know that they're only going to be one movie.
Yeah.
Which allows for Star Wars to be more epic than just your standard 2-hour film.
I remember feeling kind of disappointed that I didn't get as much as I was wanting in that first film, and it set up a lot for the subsequent films. I remember feeling very like when A New Hope Episode 4 was first made. That was originally a standalone movie. There was George Lucas had ideas for other movies, but there was never any plan of this is gonna be a sequel. That was a standalone, and so it stood on its own feet. And I didn't feel like The Force Awakens stood on its own feet. I think like it relied way too much on what was to come, and it's unfortunate that Abrams wasn't given the full trilogy all to himself, because maybe that would have changed now what it has become, The Last Jedi. But we won't talk about that.
Maybe Last Jedi is our drinking word. Just like, because we want to talk about it because like everybody in this room has their own valued opinion of it.
No, I think there's a lot to say about The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Well, but start from the ground up,
Yeah. Well, anyway, I kind of had the same thing. I honestly wasn't expecting a whole lot from it. I really wanted it to be good, but I was kind of underwhelmed when I saw it. And yeah, I just I only saw it once in theaters, and then I rented it when it came out on DVD. I redboxed it, and then I tried to watch it again, and I kind of got bored and I stopped. And I didn't watch it all the way through again until just recently in preparation for this podcast, because I really wanted to know. I really want to take a really close look at it and see why I felt so underwhelmed by the movie. And once The Last Jedi came out, to mention that one again, that's when everything kind of changed, I think. But for me, kind of how I feel about this, where this whole trilogy is going. But anyway, it didn't really feel like Star Wars completely, but it was still fun, and it was really cool to see things like the Millennium Falcon again. It was awesome to see Han Solo again, despite the fact that he died. I don't think anybody really wanted that.
Except for him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was smart.
Harrison
He was
Ford.
smart to get out when he did.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So that was that's why we've picked this movie. And of course we're going to be talking about the next one that came out after that. But yeah. So what do you guys think like are the reasons specifically? Like what stands out to you as why this fell flat?
Well, I think for the reasons that it fell flat, I think you guys have both touched on it. For me personally, they introduced some new stuff at the expense of what was already discussed in the past 6 movies.
Yeah.
And at the same time, they didn't introduce anything new for me. And that is a huge deal. What is the point of us what's the point of me spending $15 and 6 hours of my life for a franchise that is not going to expand on anything? You've already proven to me you can do A New Hope, and you can do it really, really well, and you can do it in the 70s and on a budget that isn't so great. So why do you need to rehash it again?
Yeah. Well, it felt like Disney got the franchise, and they were just like, well, all this stuff is here, but we want to make it our own, and in trying to do that, they just ended up making the exact same thing over again, but trying to make it their own and not call it A New Hope over.
They should have called it An Old Hope.
It's the nostalgia disease. Everybody was we went so far away in the prequels, I think, that everybody was like, I just want Luke and Leia and Han back. And so what happened is that we got Luke, Leia, and Han, younger versions, but they're a lot less charismatic than...
Yeah, and we're going to be talking about why exactly they aren't as compelling of characters as the original Luke, Leia, and Han. Oh, you want to say something?
Well, this isn't confirmed, but I was reading recently about a rumor about when they were writing the script for Force Awakens, that they had written Luke in a lot. Mm-hmm. And that while they were writing it, they ultimately decided to put him only at the end of the movie because they said that he overshadowed all the other new characters. Which I'm like, well, he's Luke Skywalker. We've already had him for 3 movies, and he's the hero of the universe.
Yeah, basically.
So I don't know why they didn't want him to like overshadow their new characters, unless that's just like a pride thing.
And here's the thing. Here's what I don't quite understand. So everybody's like harping on Disney, right? And that's fine. I mean, you can look at them as the giant galactic empire, whatever you want to, just the all-consuming mouse just coming in and gobbling up your childhood. But at the same time, you can take a look at what they've done with like the Marvel franchise and say, okay, like they gave Marvel, like they might have bought Marvel, but Marvel had a plan and went forward with it. And yeah, they've kind of stepped in and they kind of do their own thing. But what seems to be non-existent in the Star Wars is this guiding force anymore. It's so lopsided now. Because I was talking to Josh about this in preparation of this. Can we even say anymore that Star Wars is a good franchise? Because when right now 5 out of 8 movies are terrible, almost unwatchable for me. Well, I mean, okay, I'm sorry. The prequels are pretty much unwatchable for me. I cannot stand them.
I like them now.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's what blows my mind is everybody's like, it's the nostalgia of we weren't accepting of what we got, but at the same time, you have to go back and you have to watch them with like clear eyes and still say, hey, this is actually not good either.
Well, here's the thing. I think the stories were coherent and they made sense.
Right, because they had a guiding
tied
force.
Now, I think people didn't like them because of casting issues, because of overuse of CGI. There were other reasons, but I don't think anyone criticized. I mean, maybe it was a little long-winded in parts. Maybe it focused too much on the political side. But to Lucas, his plan for the original the prequel trilogy was always that it was the political setup for what happened. In
Palpatine's takeover to be the emperor. Which, if you watch it from that perspective, like of Palpatine, it's like genius storytelling.
Well, that leads right into this next point. Like, okay, so the one of the biggest problems that I have with The Force Awakens is the setup for this whole story. Right from the opening crawl, we learn that basically the Empire is completely back. And there is this basically a rebel alliance fighting the Empire.
Yeah.
I mean, everything is right back to where A New Hope began. That's just why it should be called An Old Hope. And it's pointless. Why we had to go back to all this. And there's even an inconsistency in that, because I don't understand why the Resistance is separate from the Republic.
Yeah.
Why is there a separation between the two?
It makes sense in the original trilogy because the Republic was turned into the Empire, and at the end of the prequels, the Republic became the Galactic Empire.
Yeah.
The Republicans went Democrat, the Democrats went Republicans. It was all upside down. It was topsy-turvy.
But then at the end of Return of the Jedi, the Republic was refounded. So, like,
Reforged.
They should be
so
the
what
fighting
happened?
force. Why are they?
They are the fighting force.
If they know that the First Order is there by however they became, like, have unlimited finances. Right. If they know that it's there, why aren't they fighting it? Why did they just like say, "Oh, these guerrilla warfare people can just fight them for us"?
Yeah, well, get this. This is something that that General Hux says in The Force Awakens. I don't know if this is kind of a paraphrase, but he says the New Republic lies to the galaxy while secretly supporting the treachery of the Resistance. I mean, it's not like the First Order has a seat at the table, do they?
No.
So what is happening?
Well,
the Republic should be the resisting force.
Immediately after he says that, he blows up the planet with the Senate on it.
Get this. This is how the movie frames it. They don't say this, but this is how the movie frames it. The First Order blows up the New Republic.
Yeah.
Like, they're gone. All that's left is Leia and her
guys,
like three ships.
Remember that 40-year stretch in between the first trilogy and this now? Well, yeah, take all of that good stuff that you did and just throw it out the window. Throw it right out. We're starting over. We're starting over from scratch.
This invalidates, it dismantles everything that was accomplished at the end of the Last Jedi.
Exactly.
Not Last
Jedi.
Sorry, did I say Last Jedi? Return of the Jedi.
Take a drink.
Yeah, sorry. I didn't say Jakku. But
I changed it to Last Jedi. It's Last Jedi.
Their whole victory, like everything that they accomplished, is completely back. I mean, it's called Return of the Jedi, and then in Episode 8 you have the Last Jedi. Like, that kind of tells you how quickly everything fell apart.
Yeah.
2 movies later, but. Yeah, I'm just trying to understand what happened.
Well, that line, I've never really paid attention to that line because he's screaming it in the movie, and there's so much going on.
But it's like, what do you mean secretly supporting the Resistance? Like, why?
If anything, they should be openly supporting the Resistance.
Republic should be the Resistance. I mean, why is it even called the Resistance?
No.
The First Order should be called the Resistance.
Exactly. That's so dumb. Like, they seized power back from the Empire. The Republic is established.
Did they though?
Did they? I don't even know anymore.
And how in the world did they build a weapon more powerful in 30 years less than the Empire ever was able to create? How in the world did they do that?
Because they just took the blueprints and they pinched it outward, kind of like on an iPhone when you can zoom in. But that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out the point of Abraham
of
Abraham JJ's reasoning.
Old Abraham JJ.
And why to reset everything to the point of Episode 4. Everything was reset to episode 4. And instead of moving on.
They never explained where Snoke came from, but also why everybody in the galaxy knows who he is and that he's really powerful. And Leia's like, no, Snoke turned him. Whenever she says the word Snoke, it bugs me, by the way, in the movie.
Snoke. It's kind of a weird Snoke.
Okay. All right. So we established that one of the main issues is that it resets everything and it doesn't give us anything new. At least I understand. At least with the prequels, we got some different new story. Mm-hmm. It was very different than the original trilogy. It was less guerrilla, more royal, imperial looking, beautiful scenery, whatever. Things were clean, things were whatever. In the original trilogy, things were bleak and not dusty and everything.
Low budget.
And this one, it's like it's a high budget, low budget. In Force Awakens, they put a lot of money into going non-CGI, which I really appreciated. I really did.
Yeah.
And they got this.
Yeah. No. The visually, stunning.
The aesthetics are great.
There's no complaint with that.
But literally, and this is when I watched. This is what I had. This is what the feeling after that first scene, and we talked about it because we just watched the first scene together where Poe shoots a laser at Kylo Ren. Poe Dameron. He does sound like a school kid that gets in trouble with the principal a lot, which is what happens in The Last Jedi.
Dameron,
but Kylo Ren holds out his hand and he catches this laser beam in midair.
Yeah.
And that was where I was like, oh my gosh, we've got something new with the Force. I haven't seen that before.
I remember hearing people in the theaters on opening night being like, oh.
And then it showed his demonstration of the power of the Force, because even when he was in the middle of the conversation, the beam was still there. When he was starting to walk away, it was there until he walked off camera. Then the beam shot into something else and it blew up. And that was fine. But I was like, oh man, there was a lot of promise. There was a lot of hope that something new was going to happen. And then we get into the Death Star 3.0 and
3.1.
3.1 surround sound. I don't even know. That's
yeah. Let's talk a little bit about how close this movie is to A New Hope. I mean,
hit me with it, Josh.
Let's just run through it because this is pretty blatantly obvious why this movie is an old hope. Okay, right off the bat, in this. Right when the movie kicks off, there's this information that people are after, right? Sounds like the Death Star plans, right?
Yep.
And the rebels, aka resistance, whatever, they have this, and the Empire's on their heels, right? And so this guy, Poe Dameron, he takes it and he hides it in a droid. Oh, wow. And he sends that droid into the desert. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then this droid bumps into this person who's kind of gazing up at the stars and always kind of dreaming about leaving that planet someday. Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, who does that remind you of?
Yep.
And it goes on from there. I mean, it's
Jacqueline.
they go to they go to a cantina to find a smuggler, basically, who can get them to the Resistance. Except this time, Han Solo is taking them to the cantina to find a smuggler. I mean, if this was not a Star Wars movie, if someone else made this movie, it wasn't Star Wars, it was called something else. The Star Wars franchise would sue them for ripping off A New Hope.
Yeah. Yep.
The thing is, probably what had happened, I just feel like this happened. They handed in the script for A New Hope, and the people that read it was like, oh my gosh, this is an amazing movie, because they had never seen A New Hope. The people that had purchased this franchise.
That also wrote Frozen.
Sure. Did they write? Wait, hold on.
No, I don't know. I was
about to say, did the people that wrote Frozen write friggin' Star Wars?
No, that was a joke.
No.
I swear to all that's good and holy in this world.
Not much anymore.
Yeah. So
well,
anyway.
Yeah. Anyway,
what were you saying?
It's just a blatant ripoff, and it leaves you with a question of why.
Well, even at the end where Poe's like flying through the trench, and he has like the little hole at the end of the thing.
They have this whole scene where they're standing in a room around this hologram of what looks like the Death Star. They actually bring it up. They bring up the old hologram of the Death Star for a moment just to compare it to how much bigger this weapon is, as if that really, who cares? And then, they're all talking about, how can we destroy this thing? Well, they have these shields. Well, and then it's like it's a novel idea. We'll disable the shields. Oh, yeah.
Hans,
that's the end of A New Hope.
Guys, I already know what to do. Just give me the keys. I'll go take care of this right now. I don't need anybody else. Just me and Chewie. We've done this before.
Yeah.
Twice.
Well,
that's exactly what
I don't know why this popped in my head, but the one part in the movie that I was like, this just feels way out of place in this movie was when when Rey and Finn are on the Millennium Falcon and they get pulled into that ship with Han and Chewie, and then those big like octopus crawling things are chasing them through the hallways. Mm-hmm. That whole sequence of the movie was just like, what is going on?
Wasn't that the one, the weird bounty hunter scene? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, and Han was standing in the middle saying like, I didn't know you that money, and he was like, I gave the money, whatever.
Yeah,
I don't remember
that weird standoff situation.
Yeah,
like, we could have saved like a good
Rathgars or something like that.
I think another problem that occurred in this movie is that everybody wanted to be in it. And there were so many there's so many people that wanted to be in this, and they wanted to pack this with stars that like who's do we what was the name of the actor that's in the very first scene, the old guy? He's a great actor.
I don't know.
Well, Siri.
Hey Siri,
mean, he's like a Christopher Plummer knockoff.
Who's the guy in the very first scene of Star Wars Force Awakens?
That's not going to work.
Force Awakens.
She got it right.
Yeah, that's
Siri's helping me now. Hold on.
But
I'm going to find out.
What was your point, though?
Okay, but so we have her. We have Oscar Isaac. Is that right? Is that him? Who's Poe Dameron? Yeah. We have.
Well, they even had Daniel Craig playing a stormtrooper.
Yeah, there's all these like rumors of all these like famous people that showed up.
The Prince Harry, I think, was in it or something. I don't know.
Well, I hope they're all happy. They made a pretty crappy movie.
Hey, what? This has 93% on Rotten Tomatoes?
Yep. Well,
that can't be right.
The Last Jedi, I said it. It has like 90-something on Rotten Tomatoes, too.
We'll get to why.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that one.
Yeah.
Don't you worry. Just you wait. Anyways, but
yeah, well,
I don't know. It seemed like there was maybe this is the Abrams syndrome too. There was just so much information to pack into 2 hours so that you could pull on the threads later, and we didn't need it. We don't need it. You can organically introduce new information, like in the original trilogy. Like we introduced the fact that Darth Vader kills Luke's father. That's what Obi-Wan says. Obi-Wan says, "Hey, your dad was a Jedi, and Vader was the one that killed him." So we establish in that Luke comes from a prestigious family to the point where the most dangerous person in the galaxy hunted his family down. But that's really the only thread that we get. Like we don't have a ton of threads to pull because we're on this train and it's going to one certain destination. He knows where it's going to end. Whether or not he gets to make the movies, whether or not Lucas gets to make the movies, he knows where this is going to end, where he wants it to end at least. And yeah, he can be like, oh well, maybe he didn't know that Leia and Luke were brother and sister at the time, which would explain the kiss, because that's always been a weird thing for me.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people. But he at least knew where it was going to end up. And I feel like with this trilogy, no one knows. And especially now,
I feel like they still don't know.
Yeah, especially now there's going to be a ton of course correction over The Last Jedi, and I get it. But yeah, I just feel like from the start, it was hey guys, look, we don't know where it's going to go. We're just kind of going to give them the nostalgia. We're going to give them what they want. And we're going to give you a whole bunch of things that you can pull from, including if you want to do spin-offs. Sure, why not? Why not have little orange Yoda, whatever her name was, Mastiff, what was her name?
Maz
Mazda Miata.
Orange Yoda.
Orange Mazda Miata with a license plate number V672483.
Your lights are on.
Your lightsaber's on.
Parked right on the beach.
But like, so it's like, okay, so we have this character that an Oscar-winning actress is performing this CGI alien character. Why? Why do we need her? There was no point in this character.
Yeah.
I mean, she could have.
Yeah, that's what
they
I'm saying.
introduced her as like potential coolness.
Exactly. And that would have been dope. That would have been awesome. But we did not get it. And we just got a taste of it in the Force Awakens, not enough to really care. And I think that's kind of where it came out with a lot of the problem that I had with this is I don't care about any of these characters. I really do not care about Rey. I don't care about Poe. I don't care about Finn. I don't care about any of the characters that we were introduced in Last Jedi. Kylo is the only one to me that's interesting.
Well, let's start talking about the characters here because I noticed some things. I was kind of tracking their motivations throughout the story, and I think of the three main ones, Finn, Rey, and Kylo. I think Kylo is the strongest one.
Oh yeah.
But here's the thing:
it's because he actually has a connection.
To what?
To I mean, he's a Skywalker. He has a connection to the story already told.
Well, his motivation, like what he's wanting in the story, is also the most clear.
Yeah.
But the only thing that's lacking, which is pretty important, is you don't know why he turned to the dark side. And even The Last Jedi doesn't answer that, so there's no point in answering it in retrospect.
Oh, yeah.
It never says what seduced him to the dark side. We end up
Leia
learning...
said, Snoke.
We end up
Snoke
learning in
did
The
it.
Last Jedi that Luke tipped him over the edge, right? Yeah. But we also already know that Snoke was... basically, he was already Snoke's at that point.
Yeah.
But we don't...
Who the crap is Snoke?
We don't know why he wants so badly. I mean, Rey even says, like, you're afraid that you're not as strong as your grandfather Vader. She basically, she literally says that to him. Why does he want so badly to be Vader? And it never answers that.
But also, does he like not? I mean, does he just like wipe from his mind archives that Vader turned away? He turned back. And he spent most of his life not on the dark side?
To be fair, the only person that is aware of Vader's transformation is Palpatine and Luke. He was the only one present.
I don't think there would have been a widespread lie about the fact that Vader turned.
I would assume that since Luke and Leia had that big conversation before Luke went to face Vader in Return of the Jedi, that he would have come back because they burned Vader's body on Endor. Like, why? Of course, he's going to tell Leia that her father was actually a good person.
Bad news, Dad's dead.
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason to assume why
he would keep that a secret.
Yeah, right. So we don't know why he idolizes Vader so much. We have no idea.
He idolizes the suit.
I mean, it was a pretty dope suit. Not gonna lie to you.
I mean, it's fine that he does that, except that there's no reason given.
Yeah.
You never learn it.
Other than him supposedly not having a good relationship with his father.
Yeah, but
that's not.
That's kind of vague
motivation.
But the thing is, like his both his parents and his uncle were these heroes, galactic heroes, right? And so you could make a case that, okay, maybe he didn't feel like he could live up to that or something, but it's never explored. So we don't know. All we know is and I watched that scene again where he kills his dad. And it's like, man, the way he did it, that was a really jerk way to kill your own dad.
Yeah.
Because you think he's struggling.
To me, it seemed like he was struggling. But
you thought he was struggling to not do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay that he is that way. It's just you're not giving a single clue why. And I think that's what's really lacking from his whole arc.
Yeah.
Is that we don't know the reason why he is the way he is.
Yeah, and then we're told, Snoke is this big bad, and he's he's the reason he was seduced by Snoke. And then it's like, no, we don't have any reason to believe that.
Why? I mean,
yeah. What was the point? Who is Snoke? Why are we introducing this big bad character without any backstory, without any reason? I have a big problem with that. Like, I don't care that you had plans to.
For this particular movie, I don't think it was such a big deal as long as they answered it in the next movie, which they didn't. But that's talking strictly about this movie. I think it's okay that they just left that at a mystery.
To an extent.
Yeah. To an extent.
It's like, I don't know.
Although it is kind of sad that, okay, you kill the Emperor and another one just replaces him.
Yeah.
Well, that
was disappointing. That's why, again, it's like everything's undone. That was accomplished in The Last Jedi. In Return of the Jedi.
My main problem with this movie is like we've said before, is that you took everything from the original trilogy and all the progress we had, and then you said, no, we're starting back at square one, introducing the First Order. No, we dismantled the Empire, and then now we have this incredibly powerful military presence that has no reason to be there. It makes no sense, and you don't
have the resources to build the weapon they did.
Right. And this is something that we were going to talk about.
And the Republic not know about it?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is something that we're going to talk about.
And then the Republic having to secretly back a resistance group to actually fight the First Order.
Yeah, in the second episode, we'll get more into
Heaven
that.
forbid the Republic actually openly fight a new empire
that's trying to destroy them. Mm-hmm.
So we'll get more into that in the fix for in episode 2 of this. But it's just, you took all these things from, like, there's so much lore, there's so much interesting and cool things that Star Wars was all about, and over the course of 30-40 years, there was all this lore that was built up in the legacy books, and then you just took them and threw them away for no reason. What was the point of that? You could have easily drawn from, not necessarily using every little beat for beat and character for character, but you could have drawn from them, and you would have had enough people excited about it.
The truth is, the material that's in the extended universe, a lot of it, the original, which is what is now the Legends, what has been decanonized, shot out of the canon, not to make a pun. A lot of the material is actually better than what they came up with.
Yeah.
And it's disappointing because now, like, they killed off Han, Carrie Fisher's dead. I mean, you had one shot to do this with these actors while they're still alive. And this is what the best you could come up with.
Well, I think
it gets worse with the next movie.
I think a lot of the problem is that it was kind of scrambled together. Like, the announcement was made, and they went forward with it, and within 2-3 years of the announcement, we had our first movie. But the problem was that they threw away all of the information that they already had, including Lucas's first treatments of, or at least beat sheets or whatever of where he wanted to go with this. It just does not make any sense to me why there is not this one person. Like, I know Kathleen Kennedy, whatever, but clearly she doesn't quite have a grasp of what.
Well, even she won't put any. I mean, like, she's supposed to be in charge. She's supposed to be the Kevin Feige or whatever, but she's not doing anything other than just kind of like telling everybody else what to do. She's not like keeping things together in like a through line or anything like that.
That's a huge problem that I have with this, is that you have 3 movies. We know you're going to make 3 movies. It is a trilogy. Why do you have one director come in and rewrite everything, and then give it over to the other director to do something, and then he rewrites everything, and then you get the director from the first one to come back in and try to rewrite everything? That's why you get into this problem, because there are egos involved. There are a lot of egos involved when it comes to writing and directing, and I feel like we're seeing that. And to be honest, like, I mean, we've talked about this. I think Rian Johnson is actually a better writer and director than J.J. Abrams, personally. I know you guys have differing opinions of...
He's not a Star Wars writer-director.
See, I don't hate... I'm one of the ones that does not hate Last Jedi. I need to go back and rewatch it. I will admit that. But I disliked Force Awakens more than I disliked Last Jedi. But the problem is that I feel like if you had given the reins to one director for the entire trilogy, or one mega producer for the entire trilogy, we wouldn't be having this problem. But the fact that you're jumping from one to the next, that does not work. And it does not work for Star Wars that is supposed to be so interconnected. You cannot have a director that is known for a writer-director that is known for
Open-ended
mysteries, and you get to decide, and then we'll kind of figure it out as we go along, and then have someone that has like this idea no, we're going to subvert everything. You cannot do it. It will not work.
The more I think about The Force Awakens, the more I think that he pretty much, JJ, pretty much wrote this movie and directed it in such a way that everything was open-ended, like even just thinking down to the part where they're sitting around the table in the canteen or whatever, and then Rey and Finn get up and walk across the room, and Maz Kanata leans over to Han and goes, "So who's the girl?" And then it like cuts right there, and then the whole movie is like that.
The worst thing was when Han asked her, "Where did you find that lightsaber?" And she goes, "A great question for another time."
I know.
Are you allowed to do that in screenwriting?
Those lines right there are like what the entire movie is. And I think that they didn't have a plan, and they wrote the movie open-ended like that, just kind of like, we'll tell it in the next one. And then they were like, well, we have to have some kind of resolution within the movie, so they just recycled the whole Death Star thing over again.
Yeah, and it's just like, that's the thing.
And threw it in there.
And I think that's I'm going to go back, to you didn't show me anything new. At least with the prequel trilogy, you showed me the rise of Palpatine. You showed me that he was able to do this through subversion and tactics and things like that. In the original trilogy, you're showing me that you are taking down an opposing force, this massive, unrelenting, overpowered force, and that a handful of people can rise and change the universe. That's the thing. And I don't know what the theme is for this. I do not understand and I don't think they have one. And I think that's a problem, because you can't redo, an opposing force is you have to go after this opposing force. We've already done that.
Even John Williams didn't have a theme in that movie.
Yeah, that's hard to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was.
Yeah. Well, you need to finish your thought.
No, I mean, I think I've said it multiple times in different ways in this episode. It's just you got to show me something new. There are so many creative ways to show that, hey, there is a problem in the universe that still needs to be fixed. It doesn't need to be a giant star exploding death machine. It needs to. It could have easily been. I think
none of that big stuff was in Empire Strikes Back.
Sure, and I think what you could have done is kind of, because there's the video games that have been coming out. Where it was like the weather machines or something. It was changing. I don't know what the whole story is on that. But
recently,
it was something. Was it Rogue Squadron or what? Battlefield.
I mean, Battlefront 2 came out recently.
Yeah, that's it. And it was told from the story, from the perspective of a stormtrooper that infiltrates the Rebel Alliance, and Palpatine before he died put out like a thing, like a final order.
That's actually a good idea,
right? It's a great idea, because it was like, if I'm dead and I couldn't control the Empire, then the Empire needs to be destroyed from within.
Well, that's exactly what Hitler did.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Hitler in his last, and the Empire obviously is modeled after Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
And the First Order tried to model it even more after Nazi Germany, which is like, come on, why do you have to, can't we just move on?
Yeah.
Can't we move on from Nazis?
Yeah. Well, Hitler in his last days in the bunker, when he realized that the fight was over, he pretty much ordered his generals, he ordered for the German infrastructure that he had built during his time as the Führer to be completely destroyed, because he said that the German people were not worthy of to be sustained since they had lost the war.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would have been a great idea if the Emperor had done something like that.
Which we'll talk more about that in the fix and what we can.
Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say there's a book that's like really popular that was like all about the Battle of Jakku, which
jacuzzis.
Yes. And
poor jacuzzis.
where like at the beginning of Force Awakens, they're on Jakku and there's all these Star Destroyers crashed there and everything's just like laying there. And you're like, where did all this come from? And the book talks about how the Palpatine had like planned that this one last battle where they just kind of didn't know what was going on would happen over Jakku. Maybe he didn't pick that planet specifically, but like it would just kind of like be the last straw that destroys the Empire after he's dead. And he like planned for it to go down there.
Yeah.
And like all that is in a book. It's not in the movie.
Yeah, a lot of people resort to the supplemental material to explain what happens in the movies, but you cannot.
No,
If
that's
it's
not
in
going
the
to
movie,
fly.
if it's not in the movie,
I mean, that's the thing. It's like, I go back to the Marvel plan. They did a good job about introducing characters that you don't have to read about. You just pick up what you need to know from the movies. And I feel like that's just, if when the entire story is set in the medium of film, that's where you need to get your information from.
Yeah.
And I just feel like there was just too much and not enough answers and not enough things that really like got me interested in it.
Going back to like the specifics of why this kind of fell flat for me, part of it being the setup, the situation that it sets the world in before this particular movie even starts. Like that's a problem. Okay. We're right back to New Hope. No reason for that. The other thing that I thought was really weak was the actual premise of the movie, which is that Luke has disappeared and both sides are trying to find him. And that in itself is not bad. I mean, it's interesting, right? Luke has disappeared. I mean, that immediately, that's the first line of the crawl. You're interested. You're like, what?
people are
He's
already
gone?
that people already care about Luke, so they want to know where he is.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
The audience does.
No, that's great. Except the problem is, both the Resistance and the First Order are desperate to find Luke, and it makes sense for the Resistance because they need Luke, and Luke disappeared, so they're going to try to do everything they can to go find him. But it doesn't so much make sense to me why the First Order is so hell bent on finding him, because Snoke said that the reason they want to find him is so that he doesn't train the next generation of Jedi. Except Luke has already taken himself out of the fight.
And he already started training.
He's not training any Jedi.
The Jedi.
Why are they so hell-bent on finding him? So to me, that's kind of weak. Like they want Luke to disappear. He's made himself disappear. So why are they so desperate to find him?
It's another way of basically doing the exact same thing that happened in A New Hope, only you're now flipping it where instead of it just being Leia looking for Obi-Wan, the old Jedi, now it's the enemy. They're both looking for the old Jedi.
But there's no reason why he's not posing any immediate threat. Luke is doing the exact opposite. He's doing what the First Order would want him to do, which is go hide in a hole somewhere. If you're not going to die, just go somewhere and hide from everybody.
I mean, I think that I don't know if the First Order was like as a whole going after him as much as Kylo wanted to find him.
No, it said it in the opening crawl.
Really?
Yeah, it's basically said they're hell-bent on finding him. It said they're going to do basically whatever they need to do to try to find Luke before the Resistance does. But it's like, why? He's not doing anything. There's no Jedi coming around. I mean, unless they think he's up to something.
If anything, they gave him the most powerful weapon in Kylo Ren, so they should be thanking Luke.
Well, yeah.
Maybe they're just trying to like give him a nice Christmas ham, saying, hey, thanks for what you did. Here you go.
So that's one half of the premise. And this is the premise of the whole movie, of the events that take place here. Okay? Not even talking about the setup. But the other half of this premise also it feels kind of weak to me, which is the whole map thing, right? I mean, if you really try to think about it, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, they have like every other aspect of this map is filled out except for this one little jigsaw piece. And I'm like, you guys couldn't just get in that area and just kind of fly around for the past, I don't know, how long has he been gone? 20 years? 20 years? Yeah, that's good. They should be able to find it.
I understand it's a big galaxy. So BB-8 is the only one who has this section of the map, right? Which is strange because normally maps, I mean, we don't really talk in terms of Star Wars as things being digital, but it's a digital map, right? I mean, you would think there'd be copies. But let's assume for a second there was only one digital copy of this map, and that particular portion of the map was erased from the data, and only BB-8 has it, right?
Well, the old man had it. Like, why?
Well, yeah.
Why did he have it, and why did they get Poe to come get it and put it in BB-8?
Yeah, well, here's the thing, because I don't know why the man said this is the key to finding Luke, because they gave it to BB-8, except the only problem is they need the rest of the map. They even say that. If we don't have the rest of the map, then this little piece is not going to help us. Now, interestingly enough, the First Order, Kylo says they already have the rest of the map. They found it in the Imperial Archives.
Huh.
So they need the piece. As soon as they have it, they can plug it in. They can find where Luke is. But the Resistance, they don't have the rest of the map.
They do at the end of the movie.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
In R2,
do you know why they have it
in
at the end of the movie?
R2D2?
Because no, the C-3PO says at some point in the middle of the movie, I don't know who he's talking to BB-8. He's like, he says something to the effect of
R2 isn't he's sick? He's really sad.
Yeah, he says that, and then he says, and then BB-8 does a little, and then he goes, no, I don't think there's any reason to think why R2 would have the rest of the map in his backup data. And so we're planted in the audience's mind. Okay, R2 probably has the rest of the map. Why? Who knows?
But then he won't give it to you because he's really sad.
And right at the convenient moment, all of a sudden R2 wakes up.
Yep.
And there's the rest of the map.
It's now like, he could feel hope in the room.
That's another symptom of this movie is the sheer convenience of everything. And I am far from the first person to point this out about this movie. This movie is one coincidence after another.
And that's something that you were talking about.
And those are
the
plot
characters.
killers. That's why people don't care about it, because you may not like register consciously like, hey, that's coincidental, but it still has an effect on you. It feels weak, you know?
Yeah. Well, and like I said, that's what you were talking to me earlier about, like the characters. Well, why do we not care about certain characters?
I can tell you why we don't care about Finn.
Right. Well, well, go on, because I'm trying to lead you into that because.
Yeah. Okay. I think like Finn, of the three main characters, right? His whole premise is based on coincidence, which makes him a completely non-compelling character. Because in that first battle where Poe Dameron is trying to fight off the First Order that just landed, right, with Darth Vader, basically, you know, I mean, again, this is exactly the same as A New Hope. All of a sudden, a stormtrooper caught up in this battle starts having battle shock.
Yeah.
Just this random stormtrooper just starts like, you know, like I'm not sure I'm liking this very much. I'm not sure I can slaughter a whole bunch of people. Mm-hmm. And he becomes a major player because of that one moment. But the interesting thing is that, and I had to think about this, like why does this feel not right? How Finn started in this plot. And I think it's because there's nothing specific about that space battle. It wasn't in space, but there's nothing specific about that conflict, nothing plot specific that caused Finn to turn the way he did. In other words, it could have been any other fight anywhere else that did that.
Yeah.
So it's sheer coincidence.
Was that his first battle ever?
Well, it was his first battle ever.
Oh, really?
But that's a coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
And then he happens to, I mean, it wouldn't be so much of a coincidence if like a certain average of stormtroopers typically behave that way in every battle, in every first battle they had.
1 out of every 10 stormtroopers will have a shock moment.
I mean,
and turn to the light side.
Does it seem strange to you?
Yeah.
Just all of a sudden a stormtrooper. I mean, I was telling Cody this the other day.
Never, ever in any other movie seen a stormtrooper or a clone trooper have like second thoughts. Which, I mean, that's not saying that they can't, but
like it would have been a lot more plausible to me if Finn at the start of this movie had already had this moment in the past and he's already planning his escape or something. Like this, but I don't know why it has to specifically be this battle. I know why they did it, so that you can see him have his moment of turn.
Yeah.
But it's coincidental that it happens to happen in the movie about, you know, the plot that we're following. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the only way I can think to make an analogous sort of to give an analogy to this is like, for instance, when Luke and Han, I was telling you this, Cody, the other day, when Luke and Han and Leia, you know, when they're rescuing Leia from the Death Star in A New Hope, imagine if one of the stormtroopers that they're fighting in the Death Star as they're blasting their way out of there, all of a sudden is like, oh no, my friend just died.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think I can be a stormtrooper anymore. And then he all of a sudden goes off in his own whole plot line character that becomes significant to Star Wars.
He's the Zeppo.
Yeah. It's
weak.
That's also the very first time in any Star Wars movie that we've seen a stormtrooper bleed.
Yeah, and very conveniently wipes blood on his helmet so you know which one Finn is. Otherwise, he just is a white ball in a sea of white balls.
Please don't ever
Their
say,
helmets are very
Please don't ever say a sea of white balls again, ever. I don't want that.
Look, when you see a lot of stormtroopers from above.
Yeah, they look like just a sea of white balls.
Except this one has some blood smeared on. Oof.
Oh man, we're
Convenient, right? Convenient.
It is very convenient.
Yeah,
But I think, yeah, you're right. There's just a ton of time with the characters. It just seems like everything is just super, super conveniently done.
Yeah, like, the Millennium Falcon's right here.
Yeah. On a planet we've never heard of, in a junkyard where he said it's been, I think in the movie they say it's been there for
There's no
years.
reason why in an entire galaxy, the Millennium Falcon is right there.
Here's another thing. If
It's fan service.
I almost call her Faye. If Rey was so like big into like wanting to build a ship, she literally is salvaging from a Star Destroyer. You mean to tell me that she couldn't cobble something together? I mean,
She fixed the hyperdrive.
We've seen friggin' Anakin Skywalker.
The compressor.
Anakin Skywalker at the age of 7 or 8 is building C-3PO, right? C-3PO.
Well, she's not trying to get off the planet, and that's her whole character arc, her whole motivation.
She's trying to get off the planet, but she's not trying to get off the planet?
No, she's not. Rey's whole motivation is to wait for her family. Yeah, she's a millennial. She's a millennial.
I want to
Falcon.
do something, but I'm not going to do anything about it.
No, her whole motivation is to wait for her family. And so throughout the majority of the movie, she's just trying to get back to Jakku. To passively wait for her family again.
Right.
Like, how is that? That's not a motivation. You're desperately wanting to get back to a planet so you can sit around and wait.
You
again.
just met Han freaking Solo and Chewbacca, and you're flying around on the Millennium Falcon, a ship
he invites her to be his co-pilot.
Right, but
or not. I don't want to take Chewie's place. I don't know exactly what he was.
Yeah.
I guess he was going to pass it on.
He invited her on her crew. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Which he said, I don't do that. And also, I don't know. There was like a moment like before that where I think he realized who she was. Like they kind of hinted at him knowing that there was something about her, and then he offered her a spot on his crew, and he said, "I don't do that for just anybody," type of thing.
Well, I think he liked just how quick she was on her feet, which
only
we'll
do
get
that.
into the Mary Sue-ness of Rey.
I only do that for family. Wink. All right, we got to cut that scene out of the film, but I like that. I like that, Harrison. That was great. I mean, geez, that's what they were like setting it up to be. Like either it was going to be Luke's, illegitimate daughter, or what I really wanted it to be, and we'll talk about this more in the fix. I really wanted it to be the female clone of Luke because his hand got cut off and his lightsaber falls into into Cloud City, right? Or some kind of reactor thing. And then she happens to get a hold of the lightsaber. And when she touches it, she gets all the memories. And I'm just like, hey, this will be really convenient. And we're already doing a whole lot of things very conveniently with her character. And it would kind of make more sense about why all of a sudden, with absolutely no training, she starts to become good at the Force. Like Luke didn't become good at the Force until the Return of the Jedi. Like you could make arguments that he had some control over it in A New Hope, and then a little bit more in Empire, but he didn't become a master, he didn't.
Well, that's because he actually
Jedi.
had character flaws to overcome,
right?
Like most human beings.
Whereas the most character flaw that Rey had to overcome was that she
didn't
just
have a character flaw.
she did because she just wanted to go back to Jakku and wait for her family all lazy.
Her character flaw was that, and Maz Kanata, whatever her name is,
Maz
Orange
Kanata.
Yoda lady. Calls her out for this. And her flaw was that she was in denial about the fact that her family was never coming back, right? Mm-hmm. And so when she's confronted with this, she has this moment where she sort of, Maz Kanata is saying she needs to accept the call of Luke's lightsaber, basically, right? It's calling to you. You need to accept it. You're supposed to be this Jedi. You're supposed to hold this thing, whatever. And so she has this very convenient refusal of the call moment where she just runs into the woods, and BB-8 conveniently runs after her. And then when she sees the First Order coming, she starts running back to them. But that conveniently separates her. She just runs out of the woods. Anyway, all that to say is that's supposedly her character flaw, that she's in denial. But the problem is her character flaw is not an actual character flaw because it never holds her back from ever doing anything. I mean, at what point can you say that it actually held her back? I mean, yeah, she didn't join Han's crew.
Yeah.
But she did everything else.
But
anytime anyone is in danger, anytime any of her friends are in trouble,
but basically
she gets up and she fights for them. Because she's a perfect human being.
When it comes to the Force, though, is what I'm saying, is that at no point in time was it a question of whether or not she was going to win. Like, at no point in time did she like have to learn and grow. Like, she is Superman. You know, all of a sudden she is Superman because he just has everything given to him, basically. All the powers are given to him, rather than where Luke was, he had to train. He had to do it. Even Anakin didn't have that mastery of the Force just right off the bat. He had to go and get trained, and he's supposed to be...
They didn't even show it all, but between episode 1 and 2, there was like 10 years time.
Yeah.
And he was like really good by then, but you're like, well, he's obviously an older man now. So.
Yeah, look at that ponytail. Am I right?
Oh, yeah.
That's sweet rat
well,
tail.
like a
little Padawan thing.
Little Padawan.
Padawan.
He's a polywog.
Well, yeah, with Rey, like I'm struggling to figure out if she has any kind of real motivation to do anything. Like, for some reason, she really likes BB-8. I mean, she really likes that droid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, did you notice that?
Yeah.
But why?
Yeah.
Why does she like BB-8 so much? Because that
Bill
drives a lot of her choices.
Because it's Bill Hader.
I guess. I mean,
I don't know.
She finds this droid, and then she
bonds with it big time.
Yeah, I mean, she acts like she doesn't want anything to do with it at first, but then she bonds with it, I guess because it's cute. But then, like, when the droid recognizes the jacket Finn's wearing that it used to belong to Poe, like, Rey freaking takes off after him. Like, she's going to kill him. Because he had BB-8's master's coat. And it's like, why do you care so much?
That is true.
Because I mean, why are you being such a hero for BB-8? Why did you even pass up on like, what was it, 60 portions of food? 60 days worth of food? Because you didn't want to hand this droid over.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because she's inherently good.
Because she likes the droid, I guess.
She's supposed to be the complete personification of good, and it's so very black and white, and I felt like it made me sad because of, like, I feel like this is the opportunity to show, hey, there are gray areas in the Star Wars universe, and we could have easily done that, and it's actually overcoming those dark moments or those gray moments or whatever that would have made her a more dynamic character. But I think in general, I still like I didn't really resonate with Poe, who was our replacement Han Solo. I'm sorry, it's been 2 movies now, and I don't care. Mm-hmm. Finn could have had the most dynamic character arc, and then we screwed that up for the sake of we're going to defeat our enemies with love, which we'll talk about that.
Also,
in
you
episode.
Remember how when the movie was marketed, they were like kind of like
pushing that he
was the Jedi, and she didn't matter.
They showed him as wielding the lightsaber.
That's another thing. How he even lasted 2 seconds against Kylo makes 0 sense.
Well, you could argue that he was, he's trained military and things like that, but still against a master Jedi who could have easily tossed him with the Force. It makes no sense.
No. Finn actually even wounds Kylo.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, as a person in the military, he would have had training. That actually makes far more sense to me than Rey picking up the lightsaber and going toe to toe.
Oh, she didn't pick it up. She outforced Kylo while he was trying to grab it.
Her chlorine levels were a lot higher.
Chlorine.
This guy making jokes about chlorine and metachlorines. He doesn't even know the right words.
Yeah.
Anyways,
midichlorians was a bad idea anyway.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in another episode. But I feel like, and this is of course coming from 3 years, 2 movies. I do not care about any of these characters, and they are interchangeable. They are disposable. And I know that's a terrible thing to say as a human being. And if these are real human characters, but they're not human characters. They're not interesting. They're not dynamic. They don't.
Well, Rey really is a Mary Sue. She's just too perfect in every way. She's good at everything she does. All the right people like her. All the wrong people don't. I mean, and she doesn't really have any. She has no arc because she has no real character flaw to overcome. So a fix with this would be figuring out what in the world her flaw is, and actually making that flaw hold her back without her realizing it until she realizes what's actually going on. They tried to do that with Maz Kanata, with her being in denial about her parents. But if you actually look at her actions, that didn't actually hold her back because she left Jakku. There, I said it again. She left Jakku, and then she even said, you know what, we're going to help get this droid back to where it needs to be. So how in the world, I mean, every now and then she says, I need to get back to Jakku, but that's it. She never actually, you know what I mean? Like she's not striving.
Yeah.
I mean,
Luke, he wanted to be a pilot and be like his father and wanted to do all this, you know, he wanted to, I don't remember. He wanted to join his friends.
He wanted to do something.
But what did she?
Well, not only
she
that,
just
but
wanted to find her parents,
but it was also
wanted them to come back for her.
But it was also personal for Luke because the Empire toasted the only family he knew.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm talking about from the get-go. You knew exactly what Luke was about.
Yeah, he wanted to get
He
out
wanted
of there.
to get out of there.
I mean, even in the deleted scenes that they've just released, like he's talking to was it Wedge?
Yeah.
It's a really weird scene. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But Wedge is like,
I
man,
remember that.
things are great. Like you should come and join the Resistance. And
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I've seen that.
Yeah, taking that and then looking at Rey, right? She gets real excited when she finds out that Finn's with the Resistance. She's like, "You're with the Resistance. Map to Luke Skywalker. I've never met a Resistance fighter before." And it's like, it's okay. So I guess she likes the Resistance. I guess she doesn't so much care for the First Order.
Yeah.
But we're never really shown that.
But yeah,
Like how has the First Order personally impacted her life?
Yeah, the First Order seems to not care about Jakku.
She just seems to be excited about Luke because he used to be a myth. Like how you can become a myth after 30 years, I don't understand. I guess in that universe, if it's been 30 years, you're mythologized. I mean,
my mythologies. But no, I think
Luke's a myth now, apparently. At least
I don't know. I think that there's not really a clear understanding of like how much time has passed in between, and then plus it really doesn't matter
about
because
30 years.
Yeah, but it really doesn't matter because nothing happened at the end of
everything-
episode 6.
Yeah, and it destroys if you're gonna accept these movies as being part of Star Wars, it destroys what Return of the Jedi was, because you're like, that wasn't a victory, guys. No, because just wait, in the next movie you're right back to episode 4. You know, so why would you care what happens in Return of the Jedi anymore? You wouldn't.
Yeah. It subverts everything. And I think that's just kind of the theme of this is that maybe that's the theme, just subversion.
Well, the theme of this one was reset.
Yeah.
And the theme of the next one was supposedly
Well,
subversion.
the thing is, you can't reset it. Like I've seen people or heard people argue that, well, when A New Hope came out, the movie opened and there was a ship flying and another ship chasing it, and you were just like, oh, you just got thrown into it and you believed it. It's like, well, that was the first movie. This is the 7th movie.
Yeah.
And like, you can't, unless you're just rebooting from scratch, you can't continue it and pretend that some things didn't happen in the past. You know?
Selective revisionist history.
Yeah. It's like, it was like a soft reboot without telling anybody that it was.
Which,
I know.
Like,
exactly.
let's be real. Like, I'll be honest with you. Abrams is actually, I think Abrams was actually good at that when it came to Star Trek with a soft reboot where they still respected the timelines and everything. But Star Trek is a very different beast than Star Wars. And I kind of feel like the people, the higher ups, Kathleen Kennedy, was just like, yeah, you already did something with a star in the name of it. We might as well just pull him in here and do it. That's a good idea. Yeah. And it's just, I'm sorry. And I have a lot of respect for Abrams. I think he's actually like, the things that he does well. Well, some things that he does really, really well. And then other things like Star Wars, I'm just like, this was not your beast. This is not what you were supposed to tackle. And now we'll see what happens in the third one and the third of the trilogy.
Yeah.
But so basically,
well, he did Star Trek, which was pretty.
That's what I just said. Star Trek was great.
Yeah.
It was.
It was pretty good, but that was like a reboot.
Yeah. Well, it was It was a soft reboot where it was a way of restarting the timeline, kind of making its own branching timeline, which was good. I like that. It still respected the original material, but it just made its own pathway. Mm-hmm. And gave it for a new generation. But you
It worked.
You can do that with Star Trek, but you can't do that with Star Wars because time travel is, well, I guess now technically in the canon of Star Wars Rebels, time travel is existent in Star Wars,
really?
but people are like, please don't do that.
Yeah.
It's going to get too messy. Anyways, was there any more things that we wanted to cover on that? I know we've kind of just jumped around to a bunch of things and we kind of said the same stuff, but I think what we're saying, the problems with it come down to too much nostalgia, not really introducing anything new to the story, throwing away 30, 40 plus years of extended universe history that they could have easily pulled from.
But that had a lot of great ideas.
A lot of better ideas.
A
A lot of foundational ideas that could have really worked.
We'll bring in a few of those.
And then really just not giving us characters that resonate with the human condition or were even real. And I can forgive a lot of things just in like, it's a movie. I can suspend disbelief in a lot of stuff, but it's like those are some kind of like core foundational issues that I just feel like aren't really you can't toss those away in something this monumental we as modern Americans, we have, this is our mythology. It's the same thing that I feel like with superhero movies and things like that. This is our stories of mythology. It might not be tied to how the world was created or whatever, but these are our King Arthur and Merlin. These are our Olympic gods, our Hercules, and they're important to us. And I think that they definitely. I know it was a way of showing an older generation like kind of what it was to be a hero and the hero's journey and really what that was in a tangible sense, because it is beat for beat, shot for shot, a hero's journey. So yeah, I think that that's kind of what we're going with on what the core issues are. Do you have something you want to
I was just thinking this would be a good question now because it'll be a good question for the next movie. But we talked about all the new characters, but even though Han died and we might not have wanted that to happen, did we like him as a character in The Force Awakens?
I kind of hated the fact that he and Leia were like a divorced couple.
Yeah.
They basically did the exact same thing in the new Indiana Jones movie with him and his wife.
True.
Or him and his lover. That they did in this.
That's not a romance that anybody wanted to die.
True.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like,
It took a whole trilogy to build that up.
It didn't get fixed in the end. He died.
No, I mean, they sort of had a scene where they were like, we had some pretty good times, didn't we?
But
and she's like,
honestly,
yeah, we did. It's like,
honestly,
oh yeah, well, that's in the past.
It's kind of what we're talking about, where there was a lot of things that were just tossed away, a lot of character development. And then I think is kind of happening in a lot of more modern movies that have these sequels made, 14 years later. For instance, going into, I really want to talk about this on another episode of The Incredibles 2, where basically you have all this character development in the first movie and then throw it away and then pick up right after that, and we've learned nothing. And I feel like in a sense it was the same thing that happened in the Star Wars in this trilogy, is that
he was back to smuggling and
which is
paying
fine.
off debts.
He can be a scoundrel. That's cool, but like he went through a war with these people. He
became like a general, pretty much.
Yeah, he made sacrifices of his own well-being, which is something.
And he turned from being a man. He turned from being a man after his own interest to being a man for others.
Right.
And then he went back.
But I think that's kind of what we're talking about. There's just so many things that were, so many threads that were introduced that weren't really needed and are definitely not going to get covered. It feels like throwing away of everything that we've built up over the past 30, 40 years.
To do what? Like for what reason? And to shuffle in or to shuffle them out and to usher in some new, supposedly better protagonists.
Don't make this about money. Give us a good story. That's what we wanted, and we didn't get that. It is definitely a cash grab at this point. So that's the first episode. We're gonna start thinking about the fix. So we definitely want to come up with.
We don't just want to leave it with all our criticism.
Right. And like I said at the beginning of this, we're not trying to be super pessimistic about it. It's just these are problems that we have with a franchise with an idea that could have been amazing, and it could have really like you talk about like the next generation of kids that are growing up with this. They don't have the movies that we had, and maybe that is like looking through the goggles of nostalgia and us growing up, but honestly, like we can take a look at it pretty objectively and say, hey, the stories in this just it wasn't there. The heart wasn't there. And so the next episode, we are going to be talking about our ideas about how this could have been fixed or what we would have liked to have seen. Really, what I would love for us to do is kind of take the time and come up with like a ideas beat sheet of things that we think that the new set of movies could be. I do want to set some parameters that we want to stick with, kind of get away from fan fiction. That's going to be something that I'm going to ask ask you guys to do.
I think the idea is to try to take as much of what the original writers of The Force Awakens did and try to keep the things that work.
Right, keep the things that work.
But also take the original movies and progress with them.
Yes, exactly. And of course, we don't know. We don't have access to what the original breakdown of the new trilogy was supposed to be by George Lucas. So we're going to have to just kind of,
go off of what we've heard.
He's given a couple insights into
okay,
it.
well, let's see if we can find that and just take a look at that and see what he was planning, and maybe we can come up with something that comes along those lines. Like I said, we're going to try very hard to stay away from fan fiction and try to keep as many of the characters, because some of the characters could have been interesting and dynamic. For instance, Kylo and Phasma.
Yeah.
Phantasma, the Phantasma Mrs. Fox, could have been, those are interesting characters. That Phasma for me. FAFSA could have been Sally Mae, could have been something more dynamic. Talk about Kylo Ren more. Keep Rey. I'm fine with keeping Rey as a female protagonist, but let's just make her real and let's give her reasons to do the things that she wants to do. Talk about having the original Trinity in there, the Han and Leia and Luke.
Yeah, having them all in a scene together.
Yeah, that would have been great.
Oh, yes.
Or, just something where they interact with each other. That would have been great. And then just kind of go from there. And we've already started like soft discussing things. So there might be a few ideas that overlap, and that's perfectly fine. We'd love to come to a consensus of how we would make The Force Awakens.
What would make a better movie? The
Force Awakens 2.0. And what does it mean to actually have The Force Awaken is kind of what I would like to discover. So, like I said, this is the pilot episode. We don't have a title for it yet. We're working on that. So, as we continue on with these, if you like what we're talking about, if you have any comments or suggestions of movies or things that even you think might be interesting as we go forward, just make sure that you comment on something. We'll probably have a comment section somewhere, but.